Hi guys, welcome back to my YouTube channel. So in this video, I'm actually excited about today's topic. We're going to be talking about validity proofs on Starknet, right? But prior to this content, I've actually released two contents before it. The first one is proof of work in the context of Bitcoin. I really dived deep into how the whole block thing works. Just check it out. The link will be in the description or somewhere around this video. And also the second one is an article on proof of stake in the context of Ethereum, right? I really went in depth, I know I went in depth. So I also put a link in the description for you to check that out. The reason why I released these two content is because it will help you with the fundamental knowledge for you to understand my subsequent videos and also this video. But that doesn't mean you won't understand what I'm saying in this video even without going through the content. So I'm just trying to tell you that if you love to have background knowledge or really want to know your thing, then these two contents is for you. So without further ado, let's jump right into it. So in this video, I'm going to be talking about validity proofs on Starknet. But before doing that, what is even Starknet? Right? What is it doing? So I'm going to give you like a little bit of context, just a tiny bit of it. So basically, Starknet is a layer 2 scaling solution for Ethereum. Right? What is layer 2? We have started again at B. Layer 2, if there is a layer 2, then there is a layer 1, right? So layer 1 is the likes of your Ethereum, your Bitcoin. Another reason why I did a fundamental video on these two blockchains. So check it out. And what is the problem? Layer 1s have a problem because they have low transaction throughputs, and then gas fees are high on several locations when there is a case of congestion in the network and all of that. So that is where layer 2s come in. So let's go like in context. Services like Visa, they process 65,000 plus transactions per second, TPS, right? But then something like Ethereum does 15 to 30 transactions per second. So you can see that there's a drastic discrepancy there, right? We're talking about 15 to 30 and we're talking about 65,000. So that's a lot of difference, right? So this is where L2s come in because they want to help with throughput and also help with transaction fee. You could imagine you trying to send $10 and you're paying $20 to send it. It doesn't make sense, right? So these are the issues that layer 1s face, and because the way they are structured, they're not structured so well for scalability, for them to be able to handle so much pressure when there is such pressure like congestion, right? Layer 2s come in to help with throughput and also help it, and when there is faster throughput, there is definitely lower gas fees. This is where layer 2s come in. So this is where blockchains like Starknet come in, and is one of the best, right, of all the L2s currently, right? So this is just context. This is why layer 2s are there for layer 1s, right? So Starknet, what is layer L? What is validity proofs? So Starknet uses validity proofs for them to be able to process there's something they call off-chain computation and on-chain computation. So the way Ethereum works now is that when you send in a transaction request, it goes to a mempool. Just see it as, let's say, a lobby where transactions just go there. Just like the way that you go to someone's office and then he has a client or he has a visitor already in the office. You have to wait in the lobby until he's done with what he's doing with that person. The person goes out and another person goes in. So just see it as that kind of lobby, right? Where transaction just goes to stay until a miner comes to pick it and then process it. In the case of POW, that's proof of work. So, but in Starknet, something like that happens. But then Starknet have something called sequencers. Although it's centralized, but just see it as that secretary or that office man that just goes to tell clients, oh yeah, come, right? It just basically orders transaction and executes it. So what happens is when users on the Starknet blockchain send transaction requests, they go to a pending lobby, just see it as a mempool or the sequencers mempool. So when they are there, This sequencer basically picks transaction from this mempool, orders it in a block. So I think let me do some practicals here. So let's take this as the Starknet, right? In the Starknet mempool, there is CX1, CX2, CX100, right? So let's take this as a mempool. Then there is a sequencer here. The sequencer comes into this mempool, picks transaction. So let's take this as a block, right? It picks transaction from here and then orders it. CX1, CX2, and all of that. So as it orders it, it processes this transaction, executes it, and then it is now bundled into this block. So once it's bundled into this block, then it can generate the block header of this block, which now contains things like let's for instance like the Merkle root contains the state roots. It contains the timestamp and all of that. All right. So once this is done, right, the transaction has been processed on Starknet, right? But the whole idea is that we want to process transactions off Ethereum, but then our major goal is for us to be able to make sure that this transaction gets to Ethereum and reaches finality, right? And it settles there and then is there forever. So that is the goal. So once this is done, it settles on Starknet, is confirmed on Starknet, then something else happens. There's something we call a prover, right? A prover, okay, let's say this is sequencer. Now we have a prover, right? A prover takes this data that's been generated for this block, right? And then it generates something called a validity proof for it. For it, right? Once it has done this, then this is what is submitted to Ethereum, right? So when it gets to Ethereum, what really happens is in Ethereum, there are people we call validators, right? In Ethereum, there's something we call verifier smart contract. Right? But before we get to that, let's talk about what the validators do, right? So the validators collect this validity proof, and prior to that, another thing that Starknet does is that it badges transaction. You know, in Ethereum, it does something where it processes transaction one by one. But then in Starknet, it can badge thousands of transactions, reducing the work that they have to do to process it one by one, right? So it can be like tens of blocks, right? Batched together. So it's not just one block. Sometimes it's a lot of blocks batched together, right? And then they are not sending to Ethereum all the details of this transaction. They're just basically sending the summary, right? The summary of all these transactions with the proof, all right? The validity proof. So this is what comes to Ethereum. And when this comes to Ethereum, right? So now this is Ethereum. And inside Ethereum, there are people we call validators. So I won't go in depth to that. So just watch that or read the article. You'll get it. You really get it. I beat my chest. So validators basically takes this thing coming from Starknet, the validity proof and the state root, right? The reason why it needs the state root is because it wants to confirm that what this validity proof is bringing corresponds to the state of Starknet, right? They want to verify that this is a settled state on Starknet already, and these are just the things they have to do. So the thing they have to do, this is one of it. They also need to make sure that the ordering is right, although they depend on they depend on the sequencer to do this ordering. The sequencer will always, most likely, always all the time, gets the ordering right, but they need to verify, right? They don't just trust, they have to verify, right? That's blockchain for you. So they have to make sure that this proof is valid, right? By checking it against the state script of Starknet. And they also need to make sure that the ordering is right and the timing too is right? So once they've done this, the validators are just there to just do the peripheral validation. Then once they have done this, they send it to the contract. There's something called verifier smart contract, right? So this is the smart contract that does the actual verification, does the whole computational level of it, the code-wise verification of this proof, right? So this contract sits on Ethereum, right? So once this proof is sent to that contract and it does its thing and it verifies that this is true, then all those batch transactions can now settle on Ethereum, right? That is where we can now say that the transactions that was performed off-chain on Starknet has now settled on Ethereum. So what this really means is just, how dare you say it again? Divided or forgotten. But what I'm just trying to say is that division of labor, exactly. So this is division of labor, and they're all working to a goal, which simply means we want more throughput and we want lower gas fees, because these are things that throw users off balance, right? You couldn't imagine paying $20 for a $10 transaction. It's crazy. So you would just because of that and use a centralized competitor. But in the case where all these things are significantly reduced, where you have to spend cents, right, to perform a transaction, is welcoming, right? So these are the challenges that the L2s are there to solve for you. So this is basically what happens. And then once this reaches finality, then it's just as though the transaction happened on Ethereum, because the details of that transaction, the information of that transaction is now on Ethereum, is now recorded on Ethereum, right? That's just basically how these things work. So I believe this gives you an idea of what really happens. Layer 2, Layer 1, sequencers, provers, all of that, validators, verifiers, smart contracts, the essence of L2s and every other thing in between. So this gives you that context. So when they're talking about Starknet, Layer 1, Layer 2, you really get to understand what's going on. And by the way, Starknet uses what we call ZK stack, right? They use ZK rollup and in context ZK stack. This gives it a whole lot of capabilities as opposed to layer 2s that use ZK snack. So I believe one of my videos these days, I'm going to be talking about ZK stack, and all of that, blockchains that use it, the differences and all of that. So stay tuned. And this is Amarachi Ugwu. And until next time, keep learning, keep building, and see you on the next one. Bye.